The last 4 years have been nothing but a long, dark night of misery for the Bahamian people. And as the Bible declares, weeping endureth for a night, but joy, more joy comes in the morning. We promise, Mr. Speaker, to commit to always work on the Bahamian people's behalf and for the benefit of our children and the next generation. Things may get worse and even worse and even worse. Those migrants who are here illegally must leave by December 31st, 2017. It's not unusual, Mr. Speaker, that our wards, our beds were filled with illegals. I asked the question, Mr. Speaker, who is this country for? Which was very frustrating to the staff and demoralizing. It was not unusual. 10 deliveries within our ward, 9 were the illegals, and 1 was the Bahamian.
You gotta understand, but there's more Asian Bahamian in this country than fucking Bahamian.
Première défense pour pas noyer, c'est pour connaître quand gens pour nager.
This commission meets every 2 weeks, and since appointed has approved some 160 persons to be registered as citizens. And every 2 weeks that I am in the country, I do a swearing-in ceremony of at least 35 people every 2 weeks to be citizens.
I ask the question, Mr. Speaker, who is this country for?
Our aim is to improve the lives of all of those affected by what we are doing. As we seek to build a better Bahamas, let us join hands and hearts in the spirit of solidarity.
And I will ensure that all deals are exposed and transparent.
Remember, Oban, 4 days before Bahamians had even been made aware of the project.
We accept that we should have clearly indicated on the 19th of February 2018 that it was a ceremonial signing.
Government signed a heads of agreement with Disney for a controversial project at Lighthouse Point. There was no media present for the March 7th signing, which the public did not find out about until 2 days later. Transparency and accountability were the watchwords of the Free National Movement in the lead up to the 2017 general election. It's not the first time the Minnis administration's transparency pledge has been called into question. Remember British King's Counsel Edward Jenkins, who was hired to prosecute the high-profile Frank Smith case? Well, Bahamians still have no idea how much of their tax dollars were used to pay him for that failed case. Then there's the Chief Magistrate's stinging criticism of 2 cabinet ministers who testified in the Frank Smith trial. Joyanne Ferguson-Pratt found National Security Minister Marvin Dames meeting with the prosecution's star witness Barbara Hanna unorthodox, to say the least, and asserted that Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sand's decision to award a $1.8 million contract to that same witness 3 months after Smith was charged raised a specter of impropriety.
We are in the business of transparency. Transparency is equivalent to honesty. That's us.
PM said to me, we're going to go ahead with the lease. I said, PM, you have to deal with the whole question of conflict of interest.
And then I see why we have the average in grade school. Hell, if I respect the politicians, they can't be trusted. Ask the average Bahamian if they trust them, and they can tell you no. The PLP government continues to sing praises of the smoothness with which VAT was introduced. But the government has shown no appreciation for the pain and suffering. The pain and suffering, Mr. Speaker, this PLP government to inflict pain on our poor, our pensioners, dispossessed, and on the middle class. How could this Christie administration be so mean? Thousands of Bahamians are going to bed tonight, in the dark, without light and water, because they are unable to afford the high cost of electricity or pay their water bill. And yet, this uncaring PLP government has added a VAT tax of 7.5% to an already high electricity bill.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis defended his government's proposal to hike the rate of value-added tax to 12%. Minnis told Parliament the move was necessary, asserting the new budget is not a VAT budget.
And we looked at 12, but we realized there'd be some challenges even with 12. But we know how to overcome those challenges. And therefore, we had to increase to 12 so as to protect a future generation. This is wrong. This is heartless. And this is cruel. How can you do that to the poor? The national debt, which stood at approximately $5 billion in 2012, now stands at over $6.5 billion in 2015. Will bring the total amount to $7.3 billion. This means, Mr. Speaker, that during this PLP term in office, this tax, borrow, and spend government has borrowed and spent more than $2 billion. And I asked the question, where did the money go? Look around, Mr. Speaker. Just look around. Where did the money go? Each and every Bahamian upon birth and who lives in this Bahamas and wherever owes, thanks to the government, $20,857.
We're not exploiting the emotion. The Bahamian people have applied for land themselves. They can't get land, but yet you want to negotiate 10,000 acres of land? That's real. We talking real talk. That the government is either selling or leasing 10,000 acres of land to the Chinese. And now that they were caught red-handed, the Prime Minister, who has a track record of giving us, doing the exact opposite of what he say, or, of having an aversion for the truth, the same Prime Minister now want us to believe that what he's saying today is the truth versus what he said yesterday. It's so difficult to say what is the biggest blunder of the Christie administration. When you have so many, it's very difficult to say what is the biggest blunder. All I can say is this is another blunder.
I'll ask you a simple question. Winds of 180 miles an hour. If you're asked to go, if I ask you tomorrow to go and rescue those people, would you go?
I don't work for NEMA.
Oh, okay. But I don't think anybody that fool to go out there.
Wow.
This Christie administration has brought this country to the precipice of fiscal disaster. But pray God, Mr. Speaker, hopefully, we in the FNM, once given the mandate of the people, will have time to prevent it from falling over the fiscal cliff. When the PLP government is kicked out of office in 2017 or before, they will leave a country that will require massive fixing. And God willing, fix it, we shall. Mr. Speaker, the PLP government has so recklessly mismanaged our economy that we are now at the brink of financial disaster, as our credit worthiness remains one downgrade away from junk bond status. It will require careful, steady, and expert hands, careful, steady, and expert financial hands to arrest this fall and put us back on the path of peace and prosperity. I raise the financial hands.
Well, TURNQUEST is also defending government's decision to maintain a cap on property taxes. The cap means that wealthy homeowners who would otherwise have tax bills in the millions would only pay $60,000. Well, the finance minister justified the move, insisting wealthy investors and homeowners can take their money elsewhere.
It is not as simple as saying, oh, you know, let's tax the rich. There are real consequences for the people that we're trying to protect.
Topping news tonight, a developing story as it is announced today that Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Peter Turnquest, has resigned. Now, Minister Turnquest's resignation follows the revelation that he was named in a Supreme Court writ filed late last week, including allegations of impropriety.
When given the mandate to govern, we in the FNM will grow our economy and reduce our national debt. We will grow Bahamian ownership and provide economic opportunity, empowerment, and growth for all our citizens. We will ensure fairness in government, cut red tape, and provide concrete support for Bahamian enterprises. We must, as hanging is on our books, we must hang these criminals. These murderous scumbags must be hung by the neck until dead.
But we have a government who traditionally do not listen. This is now the people's time, and we will stand up, and this is the first wave of the people standing up against governments to ensure that governments in the future listen to the people.
However, Minnis urged the public to stand up and demand more.
And I hope that more people will stand up when government is doing wrong and show them that we will take it no more, because we put you here and we will take you out.
So I ask you tonight, what time is it? Whose time is it, Grand Bahama? What time is it?
It's the people's time.
In our next term, I want to concentrate on the poor. You got that, fine, Rick?
Perry Christie and this PLP has without doubt been the worst, most corrupt, malicious government since independence.
That governments will be placed in situations where at some point in time they would have to make what they call discriminatory or unconstitutional decisions against their people in the interest of the advancement of their nation.
I have a combination of both Ingram and Christie. In that the part of me would be result oriented, and when you look at both of them, with my medical background and my growing up, would have that compassionate too. The Ingram part of me would be result oriented.
Jesus.
And when you look at both of them, with my medical background and my growing up, would have that compassionate type, that loving and caring for people, listening to them, listening to their concern, and trying to address their concern without necessarily jumping out there, rah, 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 rah.
For the second time this week, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis dodged questions from reporters concerning issues at Bahamas Power and Light. This as angry Bahamians question whether government's increased VAT exemption ceiling on BPL bills would really bring relief. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Today, while leaving the House of Assembly, we sought to get some answers from the Prime Minister, but he refused, sending reporters on a chase from the door of the House of Assembly to the Cabinet Office. Despite crossing the street with him, still no response or acknowledgement up until the very end.
No response at all, Mr. Pierre.
Just 1 minute, Dr. Minnis.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are you change things.
Keep a fire burning in my soul. Keep a fire burning in my soul. Keep a fire burning.
We have advised the Governor General, in accordance with our Constitution, that we no longer have confidence in Dr. Hubert A. Minnis as our leader. Jesus.
On a Bahamian, on prepared to stand up and fight and defend their own Bahamas, then you don't deserve to have it.
And I hope that more people will stand up when government is doing wrong and show them that we will take it no more, because we put you here and we will take you out.
We're really moving into a one world order. We must understand that the Bahamas is a part of this global revolution.
Finally, it's the people's time. Example, because individuals have never done contracts beyond $200,000, there's a view that you should not give them a contract for $1 million, $2 million because they've never done it. But how else can you project them into a higher class if you don't give them the opportunity? You cannot continuously say they have no experience. That is a thing of the past. They must obtain experience, and government must take the risk. So government must give them contracts rather than contracts continuously being controlled and monopolized by large companies. The only way the small companies can become large if governments were to give them the opportunity. And that's the new focus of my government moving forward. We would not ask the banks to take the risk. As government, we must take the risk with our people so our people can advance from poverty, middle class to wealth.